the grief of having not experienced something. So often we understand the loss and the grief of things that in this lifetime are impermanent. So I'm on a Buddhist path of study, though all different faiths and belief systems have always been fascinating to me. And so I recognize more and more where in the world I don't see myself, where conversations with other people I don't have anything to contribute. An example of this is when someone talks about their relationship with their parents and they have a mostly, maybe there's contentiousness, but they have a consistent relationship with their parents. I grew up without my father. I grew up with a mother who ultimately, it feels to me like she had a lot of struggle, and kind of that struggle compounded when I was about 8 to 10 years old. So I kind of was on my own in many respects. She did the best she could. But to this day, she's not someone who has the capacity to hold me in the way I might need a family member to be available and present for. And so when I speak with friends and they talk about their relationship with their father, or they talk about, things they're doing with their family, I have the experience of not knowing how to relate to that and feeling internally like there's just a dead silence. Because the only thing I have to share is, I really wish I knew what that was like. I didn't grow up in a house. I grew up in a rental apartment. And so I don't have a ton of memories from my childhood as far as keepsakes and mementos. I had to get out of the house pretty young, and my stuff had to come with me because my mother had to move and she didn't have, a real place to store my things. And so there are a lot of these aspects that I recognize. The older I get, the more my peers have had experiences that my not having had separates me from them. It means on a certain level that where I have a well of compassion and patience for their experiences, sometimes it feels like an empty space. Sometimes it feels like I don't even know how to articulate or have the conversation, and it's not up to them to make me feel better. And so I just avoid it altogether. Another example is I am an expat living in Costa Rica. And a lot of the people around me have family who visit. I've been here 6 years and I still have not had any of my family visit. My mother likely will not be able to. She doesn't even have a passport. And so it's an interesting realization, and it's something I'm going to be visiting more. But I thought this was worth sharing to whoever it supports. And so what do we do about this, right? What do we do about the grief of something we never got to experience or may not be able to experience in this lifetime? Another example on my part is I'm at an age where I haven't been in a relationship, a real long-term relationship, in more than a decade. Some of that's by choice. I've been in some shorter experiences, some karmic experiences that invited me to look a little bit more deeply within as to what I was inviting into my life and where I didn't fully love myself and have a willingness to both communicate as well as to uphold my boundaries. So I've come out the other side of that, seemingly. And a lot of my friends are having babies. And I don't know if that's going to be a reality for me. It's the kind of thing that, I'm not in a position to do on my own for many reasons. And so I both love the reality of getting to know their children and witnessing them step into motherhood in all these different ways, or fatherhood in all these different ways. And at the same time, there is a sense of something missing. Now, I could totally see myself having a really wonderful life without children, and yet there's still a part of me that is so used to going without what other people have had maybe several times over, and recognizing that it needs to be acknowledged, it needs to be felt. Otherwise, I am going to project that hurt and that sense of not understanding onto the other. So it's an interesting thing to acknowledge, and I'm not sure that I have an answer, because I'm noticing it and feeling it in a really intense way recently. And I think I've been looking at commentary on Airbnb and like the quality of Airbnb going down, and recently saw a video where somebody was sharing about how when private equity came in and changed all these markets, the quality went down. And it's an interesting thing to sit with. I've never owned property. I've not yet been in a financial position to be able to do that. I don't know if that will be a reality for me in this lifetime. And that's another topic for another time. But to recognize and witness people who are owning land, right, and buying up everything and building for the sake of profit, when I would just love to have the one. And there are plenty of people that I recognize in the world who are struggling to even have a roof over their heads. There's a certain loss that I feel. There's a certain pang of collective loss at not just the people who are going without that, but also the poverty of mind, to recognize that it's not progress. And what are we actually profiting, right? Outside of the financial systems, what are we actually profiting when so many people go without something and many people have it many times over? So the other piece about this is directed at those of you who do have the things maybe others don't. If you ideally can take the opportunity to speak about the things that you have, or speak about the relationships or the challenges that you have, recognizing and understanding that there are so many people who wish they had what you had, who at least even wish they had the option of knowing what it was like. And I do wonder if there are people out there who this resonates with. I think if so, you might be my people. Everything that I do is from the lens of a balanced perspective. So it's never one or the other. It's never black and white. It's never good or bad. In fact, the version of me that has lost many things, that has experienced a lot of grief, that's the person who can sit and listen to someone else who is holding and carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. And where my growth edge remains is in being able to hold that same presence and compassion for those who have more and who maybe are struggling with whatever it is that they have, as well as to acknowledge that there is a certain poverty of mind that can infect us all and make us oblivious on a certain level to those around us who are watching us move at breakneck pace, are watching our fellow humans profit off of the situations in the world that other people are struggling to function within. And so I am reminded of a book. I share this passage pretty often. It's called The Soul of Money. I don't remember the author's name, but I'll make sure to put it in the comments. And she shares an anecdote where she has an audience with Mother Teresa, and there are some people who come into the room and kind of take over the space and the attention because they want a picture with Mother Teresa. And in this passage, the author describes how just like enraged she was internally on behalf of Mother Teresa. And later, she gets a letter from Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa says to her, "You have mastered the art of compassion for the less fortunate. What you need to work on is compassion for the rich, compassion for those who are the haves, right? Rather than the have-nots. Because essentially, their position in life and all that they have amassed actually separates them from everyone else. And part of that is an insulation mentally that creates an energy of disconnection. And so it doesn't mean that we have to give up what we have. But now more than ever, in the world climate, in the world collective consciousness, awareness of what you do have and how it is bigger than you. Ultimately, it's not even yours. It belongs to the collective. It belongs to the earth. It belongs to the, like, where did it come from? So acknowledging that these things come from beyond us and that we ideally are responsible caretakers, and that's the first responsibility. And then our second responsibility is essentially to enjoy what we have as we take good care of it. And then ultimately to realize that if we have more than another, in a way, we are benefiting from that person's having less. So where can we fill that in? Where can we create the conditions of everyone feeling full, of everyone feeling nourished by the more that we might have? I don't have an answer to that question. I'm going to sit with it, but I invite you to sit with it because I feel that these are the questions that will allow us to get closer to an understanding of how we can all be together in a world that it seems like that's getting portrayed as harder and harder. May this be of benefit.